And walk out into the sunlight. And stretching in front of you is a rainbow bridge. A bridge that takes you from Asgard, the realm of the Aesir, down into Midgard, the land of men. Yeah, it's a nice bridge. Thor can't cross it though because he's afraid he'll break it. So he flies on this goat-driven chariot. Rigel, he walked across it and he came down because he was under a command to go and to find the men, find the world of men, understand it, to teach them and to prepare them so that they could fight in the battle at the end of time. Ragnarok, where all promises would break and the Jotun and the dead would rise and fight the Aesir. Or at least that's the story which is told. That's the dangerous thing about myths. You have to understand who's telling it and why they're telling it. And this is the one which Odin put around. And Odin is a god of war, so obviously he wants everyone to become warriors. And everything that looks concrete in this tale is actually guidelines. And you can work out for yourself where the guidelines stop and the hard stuff happens. And when you really know the truth, then that's the stuff that echoes throughout different cultures. I was talking about echoes. And when Rig came down to the bottom of Bifrost, there were echoes and noises and scary sounds in the forest. Because he'd arrived in a deep, dark forest, primal forest. All around him were different things, shades, noises. As he walked along, he wasn't quite sure where he was. Everything was so untamed. He heard a rumbling. Realised it was his stomach because he'd forgotten to pack lunch. Right, so good. So he walked around a bit more, and then he heard a sound in the distance. Or rather, there's a Viking story, so I need help. And some of them tried. This is an absurd idea. Can you make the sound of a wolf rather than it being a naked sound? Okay, right. Now make the sound of wolves in the distance. Because that's what Greg heard as he was walking. Wolves in the distance in the trees. And the big problem is, I think, some animals are fine and they're friends and they're pets and all that. But even if you've got a pet dog, somewhere in it is a wolf. And wolves will team up and work together and they will hunt humans. That's why they're so scared. Not just their ferocity, but it's the fact that there's a cold calculating streak and knowing where its next meal is going to come from. And it will prey on the weak to make sure it's an easy picking. So, as Rig was walking, he heard wolves in the distance. And then he heard the wolves a little bit closer. And then he heard the wolves really quite close. So he walked briskly. Don't mind me, I know where I'm going. The keys in my pocket and it's sticking out there just in case anyone attacks me. And he walked along and he saw in the distance a light. Oh, that was so good. And he had great eyesight, because, actually, he might not actually be Rig. That might not be his real name. It might be a name of another of the Aesir, and he's in disguise. But you have to find that out for yourself, because Rig was too busy focusing on the light, walking towards the light, and he came to this, it looked like a pile of earth with turf on the top of it, and it was steaming like a dung heap. You've all got dung heaps outside your house, haven't you? No?
Nope.
What, you mean you've got dung heaps inside your house? Where do you go to the toilet if you don't have dung heaps outside your house? Anyway, he got there and this thing that looked like a steaming dung heap was actually a house. It was great. The door that you could knock on and you could open it, and inside was great-grandmother and great-grandfather. And it was a house. It had been built out of turf, but it was a house. It had a fire in it. It had a bed. Well, it had some straw wrapped up in something on the ground. It wasn't a particularly good bed, but and all of them could sleep in it and stay warm. And great-grandmother gave him a bowl to drink from made out of wood. And well, it was only nettle soup that they were drinking, but it's nutritious, it's good for you, and it's vegan. And Rick stayed there for a while, and he was, he stayed there for a while, and he stayed with great-grandmother and great-grandfather in the one bed, and 9 months later, and they had a kid. He was sleeping in the middle, of course, because it's warmer there. And that kid was called Thrall. It's a strange name to your ears, because none of you believe that you are. However, Thrall was the first of the people of Midgard that Rig met. And Thrall had different jobs, and he had lots of brothers and sisters later as well. Long nose, stumpy leg, fatty, stupid, ditch digger, woodcutter, the one that makes sure the dung heap is outside the house rather than inside the house. And while Rig was working with them and living with them, he taught them things, and he taught them about the natural world, and he taught them how to get the best bark from the inside of the tree to bulk out the supply of grain when you wanted to bulk out your bread, and the best way to prolong all your teeth being worn flat in a famine, which mushrooms not to eat, which mushrooms to eat, which mushrooms to eat in moderation. The poison is the dose. But yeah, after a while, his stomach, well, it wasn't quite the same as the food in Asgard. And it was alright eating nettle soup and wild brambles when they were there, but he longed for something a little bit more solid. And also, he had this mission. He wanted to find out about all of Midgard and work out how everyone could work together for Ragnarok, for the end of time. So one morning, he bade them farewell, and he got up and he walked around. And the woods were a little bit easier to walk in there, because Woodcutter had been doing some cutting of wood, so it was a bit clearer. And Ditch Digger had been digging some ditches, so some of the marshes were drained a little. And he walked along, but his stomach rumbled, and he heard the rumbling. And then he listened, and in the forest he heard some wolves. And I think they were a bit further away this time. He heard some wolves. He thought, it's fine, I'll find somewhere nice to live soon. All he could see was Thrall's cottages, and he really didn't want to stay there any longer. And he heard the wolves again, a bit closer. So he walked a little bit faster and thought, maybe I should stop and make, I can't eat any more nettle soup. And he heard the wolves really close. So he walked very briskly. I'm just walking here, I know exactly where I'm going, I'm not lost, you can't delay me. And oh look, there's my friend's house over there, so I'm going to go and say hello to them. This house was a house made out of sticks. And well, actually, it wasn't just a house made out of sticks, it was a house made out of fine wood that had been finished properly, and it was sitting there, and it had a door, and there was a smoke coming out of the shingles from the roof. As he walked towards it, he saw, this is a substantial house. I'm sure I can have more substantial food here. Not that this story is entirely driven by eating, I understand. So he knocked on the door again. And this time, it was grandfather and grandmother who were in there. And they greeted him. And there was a bowl, which was a fine bowl that had been turned from wood. And it was filled with a stew that had meat in it. Oh. See, if you've been eating nettles for a long time, well, I mean, food is great. Any food is great, but meat is murder. So he ate from the bowl, and he was given some cow's milk to drink. That's really rich, because like normally, if you've got a cow and you get the milk, then you take the cream out, you get the cheese out of that, you get the whey, you boil the whey up to make brown cheese. That's awesome, but the poison is in the dose. And so actually drinking the whole milk, hardly ever done. The buttermilk afterwards, a bit more. I digress. This story is not driven by food. He stayed there for a while, and they had one bed as well. And 9 months later, there was a new arrival in the house. And this arrival was called Carl. Can you say Carl?
Carl?
Yeah, so you got Thrall.
Thrall?
And you've got Carl. It's quieter. The more you understand it, the less you speak it. Interesting. So, Thrall and Carl, the Thralls all had their cottages around. Carl, however, grew up. And Carl grew up, and Carl had brothers and sisters called things like Cooper and Turner and Fletcher and Smith. Smith had lots of brothers: Whitesmith, Blacksmith, Goldsmith, Woodsmith. And all of them worked in the house. The Thrall woodcutter would bring some wood, which Carl would then shape into things, which would then become part of the household. Ditch digger would dig ditches so that a cattle herd could take out the cows, and the cows would go to the outbee, and they would be fed, and they would do the magic of turning grass into stuff that I could eat, which is very nice. And the household was working fine. Yes. When ill illness and plague. The thralls were the first to get it because they lived in the wood like trees, and in winter all the leaves fall off trees. And when you get the famine, all the thralls die because they're linked to the land. Carl, they got it next because although they had a bit more resilience and they turned things from the raw into made stuff, they could cope, but only for a couple of winters. And Rig thought, if this is the world of men, I need to find out more. I need to know more, I need to find out more places. I need to go walking again. And so he got up and he left the house and he started to wander. And this time, the forests were almost completely cleared. And the ditches had been dug, so there were pastures, and he could see some of Carl's houses around the place. And he could see a lot of thralls' houses around the place as well. But he was looking for something bigger, something better. As he walked, he heard a sound in the distance. But it wasn't wolves! That sound he heard in the distance was but it was in the distance. You hold that for me? Thank you. So this time it wasn't wolves he heard hunting. This time it was men he heard hunting. Men copying wolves, perhaps. And he walked through many Carl's houses until he saw a hill. And on the hill, he saw a great hall that had been built. A hall that could hold 100 Carls. And the hall had a spine down its back, and it had heads on either end, and the heads were painted gold and shone in the sun. And as he walked up to the hall, he didn't need to knock on the door, because there was a housecarl standing there with an axe. Eyeing him up. And checking him out and seeing whether he was somebody who should be given admittance to the hall. Because you can recognise people by what they wear. In fact, there's a saying of Odin that Odin walked up to a fence post, took off all his clothes, put them on the fence post. And the saying is, there Odin sat, nothing. And before him he saw a well-dressed man. You may have a different understanding of humanity and of personhood. You may not, it's a myth. Look for the echoes of truth. This housecarl who stood there eyed him up, and he wasn't wearing the rough spun wool of a thrall, undyed. Kind of like this, I suppose. And he wasn't wearing the fine woven and well-dyed wool of a carl, of which I have no examples. But he saw the glint of silver on his fingers and saw a chain wrapped around his neck. And the housecarl saw that this Rig the walker was no idle wanderer, no walker of the wilds, but a man of substance and of status. And instantly he was admitted to the hall. He walked into the hall, and there was a great feasting fire in the middle, and a boar on a spit, turning, roasting, waiting for the feast to come. And on a high chair in the middle of the hall by the fire sat a well-dressed woman, embroidering away, sorting out the pattern of the yarns on the cloth as she sorted out the patterns of the farm in her mind. Surrounding her were her ladies, and the only thing that was really absent from the hall was the man of the house, the Jarl. Can you say Jarl?
Jarl.
Yeah. And the Jarl was away hunting. The Jarl was away fighting. The Jarl was away trading. The Jarl was always away. It was amazing how much he could manage to be away from the house. And perhaps because each stitch that went into the embroidery fabric was a new plan that was going to come back. Every time he returned, Aud over there, she's got a beautiful house. Helga over there, she's got a fine chest full of silver. Gouda over there, well, her family's ancestral lands have been reclaimed by her Jarl who went off and fought and brought them back again. Yeah, there's a lot of noise goes on in some people's heads, and even if you try and straighten it out doing embroidery, it tends to leak into the minds of those around you. And if it leaks into a Jarl's mind, then the Jarl has to go and make it happen, and has to go out fighting, trading, and wandering. Because that is what the Jarl's job is. And the Jarl's son, oh yeah, this is mother and father, by the way, to keep the structure of the story remotely consistent. The mother and father, their child Jarl, had brothers and sisters called Trader, Warrior, Trader, Warrior, Hunter. They were the marshals of men, the organisers, the spear shakers. And they would organise carls into lines of battle, and the thralls would be the ones chopping the sticks and making the spears and grabbing the ore and roasting it so it could be smelted into iron, so the iron could tip the spears, and the wolves, instead of having wooden teeth, would have steel teeth. So Rig stayed there for a while, and he feasted, and he learned stories, and he told stories. And he took the mead of Odin and poured it liberally into the minds of the warriors who waited. That mead is the thing that inspires passion. It makes small men strong. It makes strong men stand up. And it makes mighty men fall over and wrangling uncontrollably and incapable of doing anything next morning or for a couple of days until they have lots of water poured on them and dunked in the burns and things. Rig stayed there a long time. In fact, some people say he never left, and that part of the story became part of the life in Midgard for a long, long time. Not now, of course. Class structure, totally gone. And this is where the story ends as well, or this part of the story, as Rig returned to Asgard, where he took off his disguise and sat at the edge of the Rainbow Bridge, watching over the whole world. With his eagle eyes that could spot a candle flame in the darkness, could count the legs on an ant 9 worlds apart, and who could tell the start of the end of days, and when time starts to break, and brothers fight brothers, and all oaths are broken, for was Heimdall in disguise. And there are more stories about him, some of which I might tell later. But for now, that's the end of this story. We'll have a break. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 1/500 of a second.
Been doing this
Yes.
visible mending.
Sorry. I know, I really
It's
like
a bit like,
but some of them
it's not very smart.